90%. That is the exact mathematical probability that a wealthy family will lose absolutely everything by the third generation. It's an ironclad law of human history. The first generation builds it, the second generation stabilizes it, and the third generation, raised in comfort, disconnected from the struggle, spends it all into oblivion. The Vanderbilt family was once the wealthiest in America. Yet, when 120 members of the family gathered for a reunion less than a century after Cornelius Vanderbilt's death, there wasn't a single millionaire left among them. But a select few families have found a glitch in this matrix. They don't just survive, they compound. For 3, 5, or even 10 generations, their wealth remains untouchable, unaffected by recessions, wars, or reckless heirs. How? Because they don't look at money as currency, they look at it as software. And today, we are breaking down the 7 structural rules of the hidden operating system that keeps the global elite wealthy forever. Rule 1. The 100-year horizon. Most people plan for the weekend. Entrepreneurs plan for the next quarter. The ultra-wealthy plan for a century. When a multi-generational family makes an investment, they aren't looking at Q4 earnings or next year's stock price. They ask a fundamentally different question. Will this asset still be producing cash flow when my great-granddaughter is running the firm? This completely eliminates the urge to chase hype, crypto trends, or volatile bubbles. They buy generational land, critical infrastructure, and foundational businesses. They play the slowest game in the room, which makes them immune to short-term panic. Rule 2. The stewardship mindset. In new money families, the prevailing psychology is ownership. This is my money, and I earned the right to spend it. In dynastic families, that mindset is strictly forbidden. It is replaced by stewardship. An heir is taught from childhood that they do not own the wealth, they are merely a temporary trustee. Their job is to protect the core capital, live off a fraction of the interest, and pass the principal down larger than they found it. To spend the principal is treated not just as bad financial management, but as a moral betrayal of the ancestors who built it. Rule 3. Own nothing. Control everything. If you search the public property records for the world's wealthiest individuals, you'll often find surprisingly little. That's because of a rule famously popularized by John D. Rockefeller: own nothing, control everything. Dynastic families rarely hold massive assets in their personal names. Personal ownership is a liability. It can be seized in a lawsuit, drained in a divorce, or heavily taxed at death. Instead, the operating system utilizes an intricate web of irrevocable trusts, family holding companies, and foundations based in asset protection havens. The family controls the entity owns the mansions and private jets, and the individuals remain legally bulletproof. Rule 4. The asset lock mechanism. But what happens when an incompetent or reckless heir is born into the family? The operating system accounts for human error through an asset lock. The family trust is governed by a strict distribution committee, often made up of independent, third-party trustees, lawyers, and financial minds. If a 22-year-old heir wants $5 million to fund a sketchy tech startup or a yacht party in Ibiza, the system says no. The trust is legally structured to distribute money only for specific, pre-approved pillars: education, healthcare, and vetted business capitalization. The system protects the wealth from the family itself. Rule 5. The private family bank. Traditional families tell their kids to go to college, get a job, or take out a bank loan to start a business. Dynastic families bypass Wall Street entirely by creating their own private family bank. If a family member wants to start a business, they don't pitch a venture capitalist. They pitch the family investment board. If approved, the trust loans them the money at favorable rates. But here is the catch. It is a loan, not a handout. The heir must pay it back with interest, replenishing the family bank for the next generation. This teaches entrepreneurship and accountability without risking family capital to external predators. Rule 6. Intellectual capital transfers. Financial capital is useless without intellectual capital. Most families focus entirely on passing down the money, which is why the money disappears. Dynastic families place a higher value on passing down the system. They utilize formal family constitutions, written documents outlining the family's values, mission statement, and governance policies. They hold mandatory annual family assemblies, where children as young as 10 are taught how to read financial statements, understand tax law, and manage emotional wealth. They don't just inherit money, they inherit the capability to manage it. Rule 7. The tribal network effect. The final rule of the operating system is isolation proofing. Wealthy families do not operate as islands, they operate as a tribe. Through family offices, they co-invest with other legacy families. This creates an impenetrable network effect. If Family A's primary industry hits a downturn, Family B and C provide the deal flow, political connections, and insider access to pivot into new markets. They don't compete with other elite families, they cartelize opportunity. A child born into this system doesn't just inherit cash, they inherit an automatic, global infrastructure of unfireable allies. Rule 8. The marriage firewall. Love is allowed, risk is not. In dynastic families, marriage isn't just a romantic decision. It's treated as a corporate merger with legal safeguards attached. Before any wedding, the family's lawyers draft an ironclad prenuptial agreement, ring-fencing the trust assets so they can never be touched in a future divorce. Spouses marrying into the family are often kept outside the trust structure entirely. They may enjoy the lifestyle, but they hold no claim to the underlying capital. Some families go further, requiring a multi-year vesting period before a spouse's children even qualify as trust beneficiaries. The rule is simple. Love can come and go, but the principle never leaves the bloodline. Rule 9. The shadow succession plan. Most families wait until a patriarch dies to figure out who takes over. Dynasties never do. They run a shadow succession plan decades in advance. Heirs are quietly tested for years before they're ever told they're being tested. They're rotated through the family's businesses, banks, and boardrooms in low-stakes roles, handling smaller subsidiaries, sitting in on negotiations, managing a single property before they're ever handed real authority. The chosen successor is rarely the eldest child by default. It's whoever demonstrates discipline, temperament, and loyalty to the system itself, not just to personal ambition. By the time the official transition is announced publicly, the real decision was made and proven out 10 or 15 years earlier. Rule 10. The quiet philanthropy shield. The final layer of the operating system isn't about hoarding wealth, it's about managing perception while protecting it. Dynastic families fund foundations and charitable trusts not purely out of generosity, but because philanthropy serves three functions at once. It reduces the tax burden on the estate, it builds political goodwill and public legitimacy, and it gives idle heirs a respectable, low-risk role within the family ecosystem. A board seat that looks meaningful without touching the core capital. The family name appears on hospital wings and university buildings, reframing the wealthy as the generous, which quietly insulates the fortune from public scrutiny and political attack for another generation. When you look at the disparity between those who build fleeting wealth and those who maintain dynastic wealth, it has nothing to do with luck, talent, or even the initial amount of money made. It comes down to code. One group operates on an outdated, fragile system of consumption. The other operates on a hidden, resilient system of preservation. The good news? You don't need $1 billion to install this operating system. You can start writing the code for your own family today. You can build the first trust. You can write the first family mission statement. You can change your horizon from the next paycheck to the next century. Because the best time to build a 100-year legacy was 100 years ago. The second best time is today. If you want to decode the specific financial structures the elite use to legally avoid taxes and protect their assets, hit the subscribe button and watch this video next.